Alright guys, I'm going to prerequisite this story with telling you that in the end of this story I ended up dating a woman who hired a undercover police officer to kill her husband, who was a police officer. So I'll start back when I was in Colorado working for a place that made fracking trailers. I was working for this place, working on a 45 by 11 foot plasma cutting table, and it wasn't very good money. 6 days a week, working really hard. You know, I was moving around 25,000 pounds of steel a day by hand. We'd cut patterns, and then you'd have to take these patterns off and throw the scrap in the trash and take the rest of it, put it in a pile, and that would be sent off to another place that would weld the stuff up and make the vacuum trailers. So at first I was doing the welding, but then I moved over there, and after buying a little yellow pickup truck, because I had a car at the time but it didn't have a heater, and I wanted to buy another car. So I got that truck, and when I finally paid it off, because it was like $1,900 or something I paid for it, when I paid it off, it was like a week later. I had a friend that was working there at the place, and he moved back into Colorado Springs, or not Colorado Springs, he moved back into Fort Collins. So I moved back into Fort Collins and stayed at his mom's house, and I found a job, and I thought it was pretty good. It was for a guy who lived up in Wyoming. He wanted me to stay at his house and restore his personal vehicles, and for that he'd let me stay at his house and he'd pay me money, he said. So I moved up my car up there and my truck, and he was actually working on oil rigs, and he was gone all week long. And he would only come home like Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, and then he'd leave Monday morning to go to work. So I was there most of the time at the house alone. So I moved up to his house. He had left the key outside, and I was able to go in the house, and I started working on a Ford truck, and I restored the entire truck. Both sides, both bed sides were trashed. There was rust all over it. The front bumper had to be replaced. I put a bed liner in it. It was an original kind of brown color. I made it into a brown with a butterscotch and gold. I think I put butterscotch and gold pearl in the clear, and made it look really, really cool in the sun. And it took me about 2 months. I was at this guy's house for 6 months, and I did 4 cars while I was there. But it was about it took me about 2 months to take this truck from a ratty old nasty piece of shit that barely ran to the truck that you've seen in the beginning of the video, that really nice brown truck. It was taken to a dealership in Cheyenne and was sold within 4 days to somebody on the base, on the Air Force base up there. So it went quick. And the other car he had got from some friend of his, and it was a 1976 Trans Am matching numbers 4-speed with an 8-track in it still, and it was in bad shape. And I completely restored it. I took it all apart, blew it all completely apart, repainted all the frame rails, the trunk, the door seals. It would have been about $15,000 to do. When I got it to the end point, this guy was, I ended up having to get a restraining order on him, because he was one of these guys that he would, you never knew if you could talk to him or not, because he would just be one of these guys that would bark orders, and he had beat up his ex-wife. He had like 35 guns in his house. and he used to have his son come over, and he would like bark at his son like he was going to hit him and stuff. He was just a real bad guy, and real jerk. So I I was kind of stuck at his house, and after living there, kind of like I told you about living in Kansas or places like that, typically how you end up in this situation is you might have a little bit of cash saved up, and then once you live someplace for a month or two, all your cash is gone, and then you're only getting what the person that's paying you is giving you. And in this case, he said he was going to pay me hourly, but it ended up being him trying to say that he wanted me to work in town in Cheyenne, and also work on his cars, and then for me working on his cars, he would let me stay at the house for free, but he still would say he wanted rent. So I ended up basically working there for about 6.5 months. I think I moved in there around December, maybe. I think it was something like that, December of 2010. And I stayed at his house until, like, I think maybe April, somewhere around there, maybe. And I was finally able to get away from there. I found a body shop in Cheyenne that would let me be the head bodyman and the head painter. So I was able to move in there. I worked there for about 3 or 4 weeks, and was able to make enough money to move back into Fort Collins. And I had got a restraining order, and I had the car. I had that orange 76 Trans Am, and I wouldn't let him have it. And it was at his shop, and he had to stay away from me. So the car was at this shop, and there was nothing he could do to get it. So I was able to make enough money and keep him away from me long enough for about 3 or 4 weeks to make enough money to move back to Fort Collins. But while I was there, I rented a house, and it was actually right across the street from the body shop. And I was really lucky that way, because then he couldn't come within a certain radius, and since I just lived right across the street, he couldn't come and get the car either. So it was really cool. And while living there was a parts girl that would deliver for the local body parts place. And I was always doing the body work and painting and stuff, and she'd come by and kind of flirt with me. And she seemed like she was pretty cool. The only thing that I didn't like about her, that I found out kind of after I met her, was she was a really heavy smoker. Smoked. I mean, just like a fucking train. But she was pretty cool, and we went out a couple times while I was there. And she was actually the first girl I dated since leaving Japan and my wife, and in 2009 in February. So this would have been in like maybe May or June of 2011. And she actually, in April, she stopped talking to me altogether. So like I say, it was, and she'd already divorced me, so I didn't feel like I was cheating on her. Basically she would stop talking to me. So I liked her, went out on a few dates with her, stayed at her house a few times. She was really cool, and I really liked her. And then she, like I say, she used to come stay at my house. I used to go over to her house. I think we went to a couple movies. We used to go out almost every night, or she'd come over to my house. And she had a couple of kids, and I found out from her, after being with her for about a week or so, that her ex-husband kept trying to take her kids and kept fucking with her and stuff like this. And her ex-husband was actually a police officer, and he kept trying to mess with her. He was sending other officers to mess with her and try to arrest her for things, or just generally fuck with her all the time. And this is what she said. I didn't know if that was true or not, but this is what she said. And then one day I'm at work, and I had spent I think I had spent a Friday or Saturday with her or something like that. And then Monday morning came, and I hadn't seen her. I texted her a few times, and nobody wrote back. And I went to work, and it was like Tuesday. The guys from the paint shop that she used to deliver for called up my boss and said, just want to let you guys know, so that you don't wonder where she's at. This girl that I was dating, he said, she had went to a bar and propositioned a guy to kill her husband for her. And it turns out that the guy that she propositioned was an undercover cop. And they arrested her for conspiracy to commit murder. And as far as I know, right now, she's still in prison. And I kind of like, when my boss told me that, I was like, man, with my luck with women, man, this is the girl that I'm gonna fucking start dating. The first girl I'm gonna date in America. And she was white. She was a white girl. So yeah, that was the first girl I dated in America. And I was a little bit worried when that happened, because I was spending time with her and stuff, and I thought maybe they actually never even talked to me, because she never told me anything. I didn't know anything about it. So I imagine if they had her under surveillance, that they would have seen me, So it worried me a little bit that maybe they would have thought I was a part of it, So that worried me a little bit. But like I say, they never talked to me. They never said anything to me. And it was about a week and a half or 2 weeks after that, I decided to get the fuck out of Dodge and just move back to Fort Collins after that happened. So yeah, like I say, I saved up enough money, and I was able to get back to Fort Collins. And then after that, I was able to, I used what money I did have to go to college. I went back to college and started finishing my degree. So that's the awesome story of just one of the awesome experiences I've had with dating women. And for all the MGTOW guys out there, this is the problem that you have with women. It doesn't matter who she is. They've got a past, and chances are you can get caught up in it, and you better watch your back. So yeah, this is the wonderful story of the girl I dated who tried to have her ex-husband, who was a police officer, killed by hiring a police officer, an undercover police officer. So if you like this story, share, like, and subscribe. And if you got any questions, leave your comments and whatnot in the section below. And yeah, have a nice day.